channel, The Classroom. Today we are back with a new chapter of physics of class 10, that is the force. We have done this chapter even in class 7 and 8 also, so probably we have the initial knowledge of what is force and its effect. So let's get started. Before we start with the main parts of force of this particular chapter of class 10, we will have a bit of recap, that is, we'll go to the previous classes definitions and of force and the effects. We'll discuss a bit and then come forward to the other parts of the chapter. Okay, so let's get started. So firstly, let me discuss what is force. Force is that physical cause which tends to change or the state of rest or the state of motion of a body. It is a physical cause which actually changes a body's state of rest or the state of motion. If the body is in the state of rest already, it can push it and make the body in motion, or if it's already in motion, it can stop the body by applying a force. Okay, so this is what is force is. This is a definition. Next, coming to the effects of force. What are the effects of force? Now the first effect that we can say is just the one which I said, to start or stop a body. Okay, suppose a body is in motion, you can apply a force and stop it. Suppose a body is in rest condition, you can apply a force and make it start. Okay, so these are the condition, these are the effects of force. Second one, suppose a body is moving in a straight line path. You are applying a force, the body gets either rotated, that is in a moving in a curvilinear path, or suppose it turned towards the left or towards the right, anything like that. That is change of direction of the body. Third, it can change the shape or size of the body. A best example for this I'll give you is, we take chapatis, right? So before that you have seen mothers making the dough, right, with the wheat or the flour. So they make it with the water and wheat or flour, and then they make one type of dough with it, and they take small like balls from that dough and make that or press with a particular material with which they make the chapatis. Okay, so this change of shape that they are doing, that we make it, the chapatis or something, for eating purpose. So all these are example of a force. How shape are being changed or the sizes are being changed. Okay, next. These were one of other effects which I have already discussed with you. Now we have two type of different forces. One is a contact force, that is we are touching the body and then there a particular action is being taken, or sometimes we are not touching the body but still there is a force that is acting between the two bodies. Okay, so first coming to the contact forces, it can be the ones which I discussed, that is stopping a body, we need to apply a force, or suppose we want to move a body, so we applied force to it and then change the position or the motion of the body, or if it is at rest, I brought that into motion. So this is how we are in contact of the, that is object, and making those particular changes by application of force. Okay, that is simply contact, means by touching. Next we are coming to non-contact forces. Now non-contact forces are the forces which we don't apply direct force to them, but there are forces acting in between them. Example, magnetic force. Magnetic force is a force which acts between a magnet and a magnetic material such as iron. Second example of non-contact force, that is your gravitational force. Gravitational force acts between every object, right? A free falling object, whenever we throw an object upwards, a gravity is there inside the earth, that is a earth's pull towards itself is a gravity. So these are examples of the gravitational pull, which are all examples of non-contact forces. So we have already got the two type of forces, one is force contact forces, another one is non-contact force. Now going to the work done part. Okay, just small description I will be giving you, because this work done we will be having it on other chapters also, that is more important. Just before we start with the particular, that is main parts of force chapter, I am just discussing this part. Work done here can be positive, negative or zero. Now how can it be positive, negative or zero? work done can be positive in one case, that is, suppose you are applying an force to an object and the object starts moving in the direction of the applied force. The work done is said to be positive. Application of force and the movement of the object are on the same direction. The work done said is to be positive. Application of force and the object is moving in the other direction, okay, opposite direction. Work done is said to be negative. A small diagram if I can show you for this. Suppose this is an object, okay, this is moving in this direction. You are trying to apply a force from the opposite direction, suppose F, okay, but still it is moving in the opposite direction of the application of the force, okay. In that case, this particular work done is said to be negative. When the movement of the body is opposite to the application of the force applied, or the opposite to the direction of the force applied, that particular work done is said to be negative. Another one is, suppose a body is moving in a circular path, okay. So that means its initial path and final path will be same, right? That means displacement will be equal to 0, because we know final position minus initial position will give you the displacement, which is 0, since the two positions are same. So whenever the two positions are same, work done is equal to, we know, force into displacement, okay. So in that case, if displacement is 0, right, so the work done, this total value will become 0, so work done will be 0, okay. Now there will be another case when a person is standing with a weight on his head and is normal or perpendicular to the plane. In that case also we have the work done to be 0. How and why, we will come back to the next chapter, okay. Till here you know till this much, that work done can be positive, negative and 0 accordingly to the forces that are applied to the body, okay. Next, now let us come to the Newton's first law, second law and third law of motion, okay. Now let me discuss about the first law first. Newton's first law of motion states a body continues to be in the state of rest or in the state of motion until and unless a force is applied to it, okay. A body continues to be in the state of rest or in the state of motion until a force is applied to it. Now when we differentiate between, that is, we see the whole definition, we can differentiate between this particular definition, okay. We can make it into two halves. The first part, that is, a body continues to be in the state of rest or in the state of motion. This particular this line gives us the definition of law of inertia, okay. This particular words or line give us a definition of law of inertia. And the second part, that is, until an external force is applied to it, this particular part gives us a definition of force, okay. So first law gives us two definitions. The first part gives us a definition of the law of inertia, second part gives us a definition of force, okay. So first part, that is inertia, I'll give you a short definition of it. It's better if you can write it down for the ones who are viewing the this video right now, because it's very important. Inertia, law of inertia states, or rather you can simply write, the inherent property of an object by the virtue of which the body continues to be in the state of rest or in the state of motion is called inertia. The inherent property of an object by the virtue of which the body continues to be in a state of rest or in the state of motion. That is, a body is already having the property that once it gets started, it will start moving, or once it has stopped, it will be in that position only. This particular property is called the inertia, okay. Until and unless you are applying a force to it, a push or pull can change the motion of the object. It can bring it to rest, it can change the size, or it can change its direction of motion. So all these things can happen only when the force is applied to it, okay. I hope you have got the first law. Coming to the second law, the rate of change of momentum of a body is directly proportional to the force applied to it, and it takes place in the direction of the applied force, okay. So simply we can write it as F is equal to M into A. force is equal to mass into acceleration. I have a lot of things to be discussed in this second law of Newton's law. So before I start, let me finish with the three laws, then I will start with it. And the third law is that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. You are pushing this wall, suppose, you will also exert a pressure. Okay, so for every action that you do, there will be a opposite and equal reaction. Okay, so these are the three laws of Newton. Now let's start with, I said I have a lot to discuss about the second law, so let's get started with it. Now coming first to the equations of motion. Now these are the three equations of motion. Okay, v is equal to u plus at, v square is equal to u square plus 2as, s is equal to ut plus half at square. Now we have to remember some of the important points here. Okay, the first point, we have taken these symbols as plus. We can take it as minus also. When? Plus we are taking because we are taking acceleration. Okay, that is speed is increasing. We take plus. When the speed is or the velocity is decreasing, that is it is not in the acceleration mode anymore, retardation mode, that is the speed or the velocity is decreasing, we take it as negative. We take all the equations as negative ones. Okay, I hope I'm clear with it. With acceleration we will take the positive symbols, with the retardation we will take the minus symbols. Okay, next let us come to the other fact. Suppose a body is starting from rest. So when a body is starting from rest, the initial velocity, that is u, will be equal to 0, right? U is the initial velocity, v is the final velocity, a here is the acceleration. If it is minus, then it is retardation, t is the time, s here is the distance. Okay, so here all these things I have already said. Now the first point which I said, if a body is starting from rest, u, the initial velocity, will be equal to 0. Second point, suppose a body is being thrown up. Okay, so in that case, the final velocity, because after it has been thrown up, after a certain point, again it will come down. So from there till the point where it has reached, that particular point is the final velocity. So final velocity will be equal to 0 because it will stop over there, then again it will fall down. Okay, so final velocity v is equal to 0, and when it is going up, the acceleration will be minus g, because it's not falling, it is going up against the gravity, so it will be minus g. Okay, again suppose it is falling down. Okay, there also the final velocity will be 0, and as well as if you consider the acceleration, that acceleration will be equal to g. Why? Because it is falling towards the Earth's gravity. Okay, so I hope all these things are clear to you. Okay, acceleration due to gravity, this gravity, the value will be 9.8 meter per second square. Okay, 9.8 meter per second. Sometimes we take it to 10 meter per second square also, but if it is said in the question only then. Otherwise, you must know that your value of g is 9.8 meter per second square. This is a value which you are going to take and calculate for the sums which will be given to you. Okay, if it is given that assume g is equal to 10 meter per second, then you do, otherwise not. Okay, next 9.8, this gravity, this particular value is different at different places. Inside the earth, if you say, that is with height of the altitude, or if you say with depth in the that is of the earth's surface, value of g will decrease. But if you go towards the poles, value of g is maximum. Value of g is maximum. Okay, now next coming to the Newton's second law, as I was telling you that I will be discussing this point with you. Suppose we have, let me rub this because I think we are done with this part, whatever was important. We will be doing some sums from this portion also, equations of motion. Next, Newton's second law of motion states that F is equal to ma is this law which we have got. Force is equal to mass into acceleration. Now, keeping the mass constant, okay, if we increase the velocity, suppose there are two mass, m1 and m2, both are equal, Okay, masses are equal, but the velocity of the first body is greater than the second body. What amount of force will be required? Like, is it equal or is it more or what? Obviously, with the higher velocity, that is, suppose this is mass and this is also mass. Okay, same mass are there, but this is moving with higher velocity, this is moving with less velocity. Okay, this velocity is more here than this one. In that case, force applied here will be more than the one with the less velocity, right? Again, suppose velocities are same. Okay, velocities are same, but mass here is greater than the other one. The first body is having greater mass than the second body. In that case also, we need a force here more than the second body. Okay, so this is it. We can come to a conclusion that force is not only going to depend on mass, it is also, or the velocity, are going to be dependent on both. Force is also going to be dependent on both of the factors, mass and velocity. Both are required. If mass is more, their force will be more required to move the object. If velocity is also more, there more force will be required to change the direction of the body or to bring that into motion, whatever. Okay, force acted on the heavier mass or with the more velocity will be more than the other. Now, from the second law, we have already seen that force is depending both on mass and velocity. So from this, we get a particular definition of momentum, where it states that momentum is the product of mass and velocity. Okay, momentum is equal to, or rather I can say P, P is equal to m into v, mass into velocity. Okay, now this mass, suppose there are two different mass. Okay, suppose m1 and the other one is m2. Okay, we are applying a equal amount of force on each of the body. Okay, there is a that is mass m1, the other one is m2. Okay, both are different masses, but we are applying the same force, F. Okay, so the one which is lighter, it will move much more faster, right? That is, velocity will differ because of lighter body will move much more faster than the heavier body, right? So velocity, whose velocity will be more? Of the one which has lighter mass. Okay, so here we get, from this part we will come to the change of momentum. Okay, so here the change of momentum states that the same thing, that is, suppose delta P is equal to delta mv. Suppose we are taking here mass as the constant. Delta means very small quantity. Very small quantity. Okay, very small change in the quantity is known as delta. Okay, we symbolize this in this way, delta. Sometimes we also take in this way also, delta is this symbol also, but for now we are going to take this delta P is equal to delta mv. So if m is constant, let me take that out from that, m delta v. Okay, P is, that is, momentum is changing with the change in velocity. Okay, mass remaining the constant. Now we will come to some formula. We'll come to the rate of change of momentum now. Okay, that is delta P by delta T is equal to mass into acceleration. We'll come to this now. Now here the rate of change of momentum is delta P by delta T, right? That is momentum by time taken, delta P by delta T. Now delta P, we have already seen that we have got change in momentum as delta m into v, where mass is constant. Okay, so we are dividing this delta P by delta T, so obviously here also we have to divide it by delta T. Now take mass out because it is a constant, so we are getting delta V by delta T. Now we already know the definition of acceleration as change in velocity by change of time taken. That is acceleration. So you are getting m into acceleration. So delta p by delta t is equal to mass into acceleration. Now we know according to the second law of Newton, that is that rate of change of momentum is directly proportional to the force applied, and the change takes place in the direction of the force applied, right? So that means force is proportional to delta p by delta t, right, according to Newton's second law. So delta p by delta t is already equal to mass into acceleration, that is F is proportional to m into a. F is equal to take out this proportionality, we take a constant k, okay, constant of proportionality, that is k, equal to k into m into a. So if we take k equal to 1, we will get F is equal to mass into acceleration. Okay, so this is the final result of the second law. Okay, now another thing that I want to say, that we know that momentum is also a vector quantity. So force here will be a vector quantity, that is, since we know that acceleration has both magnitude and that is velocity, force here will also be a vector quantity since it has both magnitude and direction. Okay, it has both magnitude and direction. As for acceleration too has it. Okay, both magnitude and direction. So same wise force will also be a vector quantity. Now next, coming to the next part, we have an alternative method of proving this part also. Let's try out that also. Now we are here with the alternative method. Linear momentum of body P1 is equal to m into u, that is initial velocity. Again, linear momentum of body P2 is equal to m into v. Next, change in momentum is equal to mv minus mu, that is m into v minus u, that is P2 minus P1. Okay, and rate of change of velocity, that means we have to divide the equation by t. So P2 minus P1 by t is equal to, we will divide this value also divided by t. Right, now v minus u by t, that is change in velocity by time taken, will be acceleration. So this part we can consider as a. So that means mass into acceleration, right? This part we know is change of momentum, that means delta p, that is equal to by t is equal to m into a. Now this part we again know is force is equal to mass into acceleration. So this was the alternative method. Whichever way you do for the rate of change of momentum, this will be the answer. Okay, so you can use any of the methods to solve out this. Okay, and next there will be many experiments or examples in your book. Please go through that. That is how acceleration or how force has a relation of acceleration and on mass. There will be many such examples. You can go through that. So right now we are going to come to the that is the units of force. Now coming to the units of force, we have one CGS unit, we have one SI unit. Now this is a relation, I will come to it. Before that, let me say 1 dyne is equal to 1 gram centimeter per second square and 1 Newton is equal to 1 kg meter per second square. This is the CGS unit, this is the SI unit. Okay, now the CGS unit, that is 1 dyne. When 1 dyne is that, for this definition is very important. So let me tell you once, 1 dyne is that force which moves a body of 1 gram, okay, with the acceleration of 1 centimeter per second square. And for 1 Newton, definition is 1 Newton is that force which moves a body of 1 kg with the acceleration of 1 meter per second square. So these two definitions of one CGS unit and SI unit is very important. Okay, now we are coming to the relation between CGS unit and SI unit of force. Now 1 Newton is equal to, we know that 1 kg into, that is a force moving a body of 1 kg with the acceleration of 1 meter per second square, right? So 1 kg means 1000 gram, right, into 100 centimeter per second square, because we are changing this meter to centimeter, into 100. So that means there will be 5 zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have written that gram centimeter per second square. That means 10 to the power 5 gram centimeter per second square. Now gram centimeter per second square is known as dyne. So 1 Newton is equal to 10 to the power 5 dyne. This relationship might come of 2 marks. Okay. State the relationship between CGS and SI unit of force. So you're going to write this. Definition sometimes comes. What is 1 dyne or what is 1 Newton? You're going to explain. 1 Newton is the force applied to move a body of 1 kg mass with an acceleration of 1 meter per second square. And what is 1 dyne? It is a force which moves a body of 1 gram with a acceleration of 1 centimeter per second square. Okay, so please see that you are learning these two definitions as these are very important. Next, now a small discussion about force due to gravity. It is that is a force with which a body is pulled towards the Earth's center. Okay, the Earth attracts a body towards itself. It is that particular force. So we basically write it as F is equal to m into g. Okay, that is acceleration due to gravity. Now we have two units of it. One is kgf, another one is gf. Gram force, another one is kilogram force. Now 1 kgf is equal to 9.8 Newton and 1 gf is equal to 980 dyne. Okay, these are the two values you can keep in mind. Okay, so 1 kgf is a force with which that is a body of 1 kg is attracted towards the Earth's surface, and 1 gf is, that is 1 gram force, is the force with which 1 gram mass is pulled towards the Earth's surface. So these are the two values. Please remember it and is important. Okay, next we are coming with, I said, mass and weight. Mass is something which is that is amount present in the matter. Okay, that is mass. It is only a, you can say it is just a scalar quantity. It does not have any direction. It just has a particular value or magnitude. It does not have any directions. So it is a scalar quantity. Whereas weight, it is just, before some time I was discussing about force due to gravity. It is a force with which the Earth pulls the body or an object towards itself. Expression I said, its SI unit is kgf or CGS unit is your gf. Okay, I have told you the values also just some time before. And this is a vector quantity. Weight is a vector quantity because it has some direction also. It has magnitude, that is value, as well as direction. Whether the Earth is pulling towards the object towards itself or whether the object is going up, okay, vertically upwards. So there is a direction. So that is why weight is a vector quantity. Now you can simply differentiate between these two. That is mass. It is a measure of the quantity of matter contained in the body. That is what I said. It is an amount of the matter, and weight is the force with which the Earth attracts a body towards itself. Second point, it is a scalar quantity because it has only value or magnitude, that is the amount. And secondly, weight is a vector quantity because it does not only have the magnitude, it also has the direction. Whether a body is falling towards itself or whether a body is vertically moving upwards against the gravity. So it has a particular direction for which it is a vector quantity. Third, we are coming to the SI unit. SI unit here is kg, or you can say the CGS unit to be gram. For weight also, we have just read, this is the unit is kgf, that is SI unit, CGS unit is gram force. This kgf or the gram force is the particular unit of gravitational force. Okay, next, that is which is denoted by G. Okay, next, this is measured by physical balance or beam balance. You can easily get that availability in the grocery shop and you can have seen so many times, I guess. And this is measured by a spring balance. One of them could be there in your labs also. Okay, then it has a constant value because you know mass is constant. Wherever you move in the Earth's surface, the value will be constant. It will not change. Your value on the Earth's surface, wherever you go in the poles, you go in deep inside the Earth, your value will be constant. Yes, if not, you are moving to Jupiter or Moon or somewhere else, in some other different planets. In Earth, value of our, that is a mass, is constant. Okay, and for your weight, as per we discussed that the force due to gravity changes from that is place to place. It varies from place to place. In the Earth, that is usually it is 9.8. Inside the depth of the Earth or altitude, in the poles, everywhere the gravitational force is different. Somewhere it is too high, somewhere it is too low. Okay, so the weight's value changes. So this is what it was all about, mass and weight. We have come to the end of the chapter with this. This is a very small chapter, the first very chapter of class 10, that is your force. We will be coming to the work, power, energy with all these chapters. So stay tuned and yes, obviously stay well. And if you have any doubts in this chapter, please do comment. And if you like this chapter, please like, comment and share. And obviously subscribe. Thank you. Have a good day.